Hi boys and girls, today we're going to go over lesson 6, fractions, decimals, and percents. Okay, so basically what they want you to do is to figure out, they're going to give you the word problem, right? And they'll say, for example, 2/5 of the songs in Bonnie's music collection are country songs. What percent of her collection is country? So 2/5 of, remember this word of means to multiply. So on top of that, percents are out of 100. So they want you to write the percent that is equivalent or equal to 2/5. So how do we do that? That's old. Let's delete. Okay, so two-fifths, we're gonna make it equal to 100, right? Because remember, percents are out of 100. So what number do we have to multiply 5 with to make it to 100? Well, 20. And whatever you multiply with your denominator, you multiply to your numerator. So 20 times 2 would be 40. Okay, so your percent is 40%. So we're going to go back over here. See the same thing they did here, step by step. So 2/5 equals 40%. Okay, now they also want you to write a fraction as a decimal. Okay, now the easiest way to do it is the way they're showing you here. Take the fraction and convert it to, let me scroll up, 8/25. Okay, you're gonna continue to make it equal to 100. Okay, so 25 times 4 would be 100. So whatever I do with the denominator, I do to the numerator. Okay, so now you have your fraction of 32/100. Now how do you write that as a decimal? The same way you read it, 32/100 is the way you write it as a decimal. So it would be 0.32. Okay? See? And they show you the same thing down here. I'm just giving it to you verbally and visually as well. 90% as a fraction. Okay, so here what they want you to do is write a percent as a fraction. So if we have 90%, we know that percents are out of 100. Again, it's going to be the same thing over and over again, okay? Now, 90 over 100 can be simplified. So we are going to write it. Alright, so 90 over 100. To simplify these fractions is very simple, okay? Here's what you do. If you have zeros in your numerator, you're going to cancel out the same amount of zeros you have in your numerator on your denominator. So given that I have 1 0 here, it's going to cancel out with one of the zeros in my denominator. Okay, so this would be equal to 9/10. If, for example, let's just say that my fraction was 900 over 100, which is not possible, but just give you an example, okay? Since my numerator has 2 zeros, cancel them out, and you'd be left with 9 over 1, which is equal to 9, okay? And that's pretty much it. You're not going to see those types of numbers here, okay? That's why I said it's not possible, because you wouldn't see that in these lessons. All right, so let's do numbers 1 and 2 together. Complete the steps to write 7/20 as a percent. So what do you have to do? Again, to get a percent, we must make it out of 100. So let's go back to the whiteboard. Okay, so they're telling us to write 7/20 as a percent. So I'm going to make my equivalent fraction out of 100. 20 times 5 would give us 100. So the numerator also needs to be times 5, and that gives you 35, which equals 35%. Okay? So for 7/20, what is an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100? Well, we saw that here. It would be this. That's your answer for the first part. This one, because that's my equivalent fraction. Given that these two fractions, 7/20 and 35/100, are equal to one another. And number one, by what factor should you multiply the denominator and numerator? Well, we did it here by 5. And number 3, what percent is equivalent to 7/20? Well, we did the math and we figured that it was 35%. Okay? And that's pretty much the lesson for today. They want you to write 1/4 as a decimal, which remember, once again, we did over here. Okay, you're still gonna make it out of 100. 1/4, make it an equal fraction of equivalent fraction to 100. What do I multiply the denominator with and my numerator with? And then you write your decimal from there. And then 3/10 as a percent. So we've done both. Okay, how to write fractions as decimals and fractions as percents. So it's basically the same thing throughout the rest of the lesson. Just make sure that you write it simplified. How do we do that? Remember that over here. For this example, we simplified basically by canceling out the zeros and writing the simplified version. If this fraction can continue to be simplified, then you need to do so, okay? Coincidentally, 9/10 cannot be simplified because none of the factors of 9 are in common with the factors of 10. Now, let's just say that you had 8/10, okay? How would I simplify those two? Well, you'd get the greatest common factor between 8 and 10, okay? And that would be 2. So you divide both by 2. Divide both by 2. And you get 4/5. Okay, and that's a simplified version of 8/10. The greatest common factor is important, okay? Because if you don't find the greatest common factor, then you're not going to end up with the most simplified version of the fraction, okay? So if you can't think of all the factors, write them down like we did in class. Okay, what are all the factors of 8 in numerical order? 1, 2, 4, and 8. What are the factors of 10? 1, 2, 5, and 10. Okay, then I look at them and I say, well, other than 1, what is the greatest common factor? Well, in this case, they only share 2 because there are no other common factors. Okay, so with the greatest common number identified, then you use that number to divide both numerator and denominator to find your simplified fraction. Okay, and that's pretty much it. That wraps up the lesson for today. If you have any questions, just email me or contact me. Remember, you can rewind the video, watch it, play it back as many times as needed so it can help you with the types of questions that they're asking you for. Okay, guys, have a great day.